Now let's move on to 4.2, which is a little more tricky, but still really easy in my opinion. So we're going to be making for loops. Actually, we'll keep the name Meredith as a string. We'll just do the same thing again with our for loop. So a for loop is going to have a variable, a condition, and an increment or decrement. And it doesn't have to be an increment or decrement. It could be like a +5 or -5. It could be that as well, but most of the time it's going to be an increment or decrement. So let's write a for loop. So it's going to be for, and then we're going to have our variable, integer I equals 0. In last case we did s, but usually when you do a for loop you're going to do I. So we're going to do I is less than name.length. This is our condition. And then we're going to do I++ every time this loop runs. So it's going to be while I is less than or equal to the name length. What's the name length? 9. So it's going to do while I is less than 9. And then it's going to print out on a new line the name.substring and the same substring we did last time. Yeah, so we're going to do I+1. You can't do I++ because that's like reassigning the value of I, and we're not reassigning the value of I. So it has to be I+1 for our substring. So now, when we print this out, it's going to give us our substring, just like it did for our while loop if you watch that. Each letter individually. Yay, awesome. So yeah. And now we can go back and do some stuff with our for loops like we did with our while loops. We're going to do for integer I equals 0. Let's do while I is less than 10, so it's not going to print out 10, I++. And then all we're going to do is have it print out I, and then a space. And we don't have to put the increment like we here when we did the while loop, because we have it in our for header. So that's very useful, and I personally like using for loops better because of all this stuff that you can do just in one line. So yeah, so it's going to print out 0 to 9. Why is it printing out 0 though? Because I starts out as 0. I started out as -3. It would print -2, -1, -0, not -0, 0. But also printing out -3 as well. So that's just something to keep in mind when doing your loops. What if we wanted to print out 10? Well, we have a short circuit evaluation here. So we have to make this a less than or equal to 10. And then now it's going to print out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. Yay, exciting. Now what we're going to do, let's print out if a number is even or odd. So let's write 4. We'll keep integer I, but we're going to set it to 1 because we don't need to have 0. It has 1. Integer I equals 1. And while y I is less than or equal to 100, so we're going to include 100 in our code, I++, so it's going to increase by 1. So let's see if a number is even or odd. So if I divided by 2 has a remainder of 0, then it's going to print out I is even. And we have to put that in there. Actually, we'll just do the number and then the loop is even. And then else if, we can do an else if, or you can do an else, but I'm going to do an else if just to practice. Then we're going to do not I divided by 2 has a remainder of 0. Then it's going to print out I is odd. So now when we run our code, it's going to test out and run all this and see, is 1 odd? Is 8 even or odd? And it's going to print out, as we can see here, 1 is odd, 2 is even, and all of this, all the way up to 100. And it's including 100 because less than or equal to 100. Now you're probably wondering, why am I emphasizing the less than or equal to thing? Because you will mess up writing loops without the less than or equal to or having a less than. I've done it multiple times. I'm better at it now, but it still takes a decent amount of tries for me to do it. So yeah. And you can see here we've done loops that we've done with our while loops. So you could do stuff with your for loops that you could do with your while loop and vice versa. So yeah. Yeah, that's why. Alright, let's do something else now. Let's do, what do you want? What do you think, Jim? I'm trying to think of something. Let's do, did the even and odd thing. Let's do it backwards. Let's have I as 100. And what are we going to do for our condition? Let's do while I is greater than 0. So it's not going to include 0. We could also do while I is less than or equal to 1. That's the same thing as if I is greater than 0 as our condition. So when we run our code, it's going to go backwards. So it's going to say 100 is even, 99 is odd. Instead of going as 1 is odd, 2 is even, Why are we getting an error here? Let's see. It's because we have an increment here, I++ instead of I minus minus. Let's stop this. It stopped. Let's clear this. And now let's run this. So when we make it go down, we always have to decrement it. So keep that in mind. So now we're getting what we want from 100 all the way down to 1. Great. Now we can also put for loops in our methods. So let's just write one method here. We'll do public static void. We'll just call it A. We don't need a really good name. We're going to have a parameter of integer num. So we're going to give a num. And while integer I is equal to 0, and while I is less than num, it's going to increment I by 1. And then we'll just have it print out I by itself. And then we'll print out a new line when this is done. Great. So let's call our method. Let's say we want to count all the way up to 12. We can also count all the way up to 3. What if we did I is -6? Remember, we could call this multiple times because it is, in fact, a method. So we can call it as many times as we want, as long as our argument is an integer. If we had a double, we get an error. So let's see. It's going to print out I 12 times. 0, 1, 2, 3, all 12 times. And it's actually printing out a line in between them. I don't want that to happen. Let me change this. So we have the for loop end before our system.print line with nothing on it. Now we should get a little something different. Program's already running. Please stop it first. And it's fine. Okay. So now we're going to get 0 to 12, 0 to 3. And since we have a -6 here, it's not going to print anything because I is already greater than -6. So our condition here is all false. So that's why. And why is it printing out 0? I don't want it to print out 0. What we can do is we can just set I equal to 1. And that was not going to print out 0. If we wanted to start at 2, we would do I is equal to 2. Or if we wanted to do 7, we could do integer I equals to 7. So yeah, now we don't have 0 here printing anymore. So yeah, that was for loops. That was actually pretty simple as well, wasn't it? So yeah, that was 4.2 for loops. So we're going to move on to 4.3 now, which is a lot more string stuff, which I know you probably love.
And that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's free and it really does help me out. I have more AP computer science videos if you want to go check those out. They're really, really helpful and all of that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.